Hello everyone. Today I want to continue to talk about how to apply for faculty position. Now, everything you need to know about the application process is on this graph. Okay, so I divided the entire process into three parts: the preparation, the application, and the interview. So in this talk, I'm gonna go through all the key points for each part. Now, the first part is to prepare. Here, to prepare simply means to prepare for your application. It does not include any academic effort to prepare for your profile. If you want to know what kind of profile you need for success application, you can watch my previous video. I talked about what kind of background you need for a success application. Now here, in the preparation part, there's only one thing you need to do. That is to generate a list for all the positions you're going to apply. Now, this sounds very simple, right? But it's a very important step for an organized application process. This is especially important if you're going to apply for 20, 30 positions like what I did last year. You can easily lose track of which one is which. Well, did I apply for this one? Did I miss the deadline? Well, I remember there was a position, but I can't find it. Now, this kind of thing you want to avoid. By having a well-organized list, you don't have to worry anything about this. So now this is a list I generated last year. So I listed all the positions in the order of deadline. Then I listed the link to the position. So in case you can't find it in the future, you put the link there. Then I change the status as I apply. A lot of positions you get rejected, but keep in mind some positions they won't even send you an email for rejection. Okay, so now a related question is, where do I get all this information? For each field, there should be some website where universities like to post their positions. For example, in physics, almost all the positions are posted on Physics Today. In your field, there might be a similar website. In case there's no such website, there's another good place to find, that is Google. For example, you can Google faculty positions in chemistry, and Google will give you a very good list of related jobs. You can even narrow down by date posted or what kind of position requirement, etc. Now you generated a list. Let's apply according to this. Now, there are 5 things you need to submit yearly. It's your resume, your cover letter, a research plan, or research statement, a teaching statement, and recommendation letter. Sometimes university asks you to submit a diversity statement. That is just required due to certain policies. It's not very important, so I did not list it here. Okay, let's talk about all this one by one. Now, first, resume. Resume is almost certain to be the first file they're gonna look at. But keep in mind, in average, people spend 6 seconds on your resume. Well, for academic position, I expect they might spend a little bit longer time, but not too much longer. So with this very little time, what you need to do is make sure your resume is very simple, easy to read. I've seen some resume. It really looks like art, right? Very fancy style, but very hard to read. Some resume even has 2 columns. You don't know where to start. That's art. It's not a good resume. a good resume, you want the information to be transparent. It's very easy to read. Within 6 seconds, you want them to get all the information you want to deliver. And in order to make sure it's simple, I recommend you only include essential information. Essential information are like, your education background, your postdoc experience, your expertise, your research experience, your any award you get, your publication list. Also, for example, the talks you gave. These are essential information. Do not include non-essential information like your address, your email, your phone number. You can leave there, but to be honest, nobody will try to get your email by looking at your CV. If they really want to contact you, they have tons of other ways to get to you more easy. Okay. Another related thing is do not include irrelevant information. For example, we are applying for academic positions. So anything that is not related with academic, you don't want to include there. For example, I am a founder and also the current director of a nonprofit organization. But when I apply for faculty position or even for postdoc position, I do not want to list that as part of my experience. It's not relevant. Okay. And the last thing is, do not try to duplicate any information. Some people, they list their expertise they get for each period of time. For this postdoc, I learned this skills. For this postdoc, I learned this skills. And then there is another section called expertise or skills. Then they list all the skills they learned. So that's kind of a duplicated information. You have the same skills listed twice somewhere. So that's not necessary. You want to revise that so each information only shows up once on your resume. Okay, again, a resume, they spend only 6 seconds on it, so you want to make sure it's simple, easy to read. So do not include non-essential information. Do not include irrelevant information, and do not duplicate any of the information. Then it's your cover letter. Okay, a cover letter, I read many people's cover letter. Was a lot of cover letters, they only say, now from 2015 to 2017, I participated this projects. The project is about this. And from 2017, I'm leading this project, and the project is about this. That's not a cover letter. It's simply a longer version of your resume. Your resume already listed all your experience. Your cover letter should be complementary to your resume, not just a longer version of your resume. So I always make this analogy. Your resume is like all the vegetables in the fridge. Your cover letter is a dish you cook out of this fridge. So as a dish, it needs to be there needs to be a theme. It's a coherent story out of all the ingredients you listed on the resume. So make sure on your cover letter, you do not simply list all your experience. Make sure it's a coherent one-piece story. But how to make a coherent, good story out of this resume, I will talk in the future in details. Now, research statement. Research statement is the most important application file, unless you are applying for a position dedicated for teaching. Otherwise, research statement is the most important thing. There are a few things we need to keep in mind. Research statement is a short version of your research proposal that you're going to write in the future to get funding from government or from other agent. So what they want to see is your research statement. You take it and you can elaborate in details in the future, and it can turn into a successful research proposal. That's what they want to see. So in order to do that, there are a few things to keep in mind. One is, do not focus on a short-term, one-time project. Okay, in your entire research statement, I only saw one problem. That's not good. What I want to see is this research statement can turn into a career. So you can build your 5-year, 10-year career based on your research statement. That's what they want to see. And another thing is, you want to demonstrate that you're familiar with the frontier of the field, because the department and the funding agent, they do not like to fund anyone who is doing very old-fashioned stuff. So you want to demonstrate that you're familiar with the frontier of the field. So in order to do this, of course, you want to propose some projects in those hot directions. And another thing, very important thing, is that you do not want to propose similar thing as what you are doing right now. Because keep in mind, once you get a faculty position, essentially you are a competitor with your current advisor, current postdoc advisor. So they want to see you are slightly different from what your postdoc advisor is doing right now. So you want to propose something that is different from what you're doing, but still something you're familiar with. Okay. Yeah, that is more or less about the research statement. Now, next thing is teaching statement. Teaching statement is not the most important one. It's not as important as research statement. So you don't have to worry too much about this. Because as a faculty member, teaching is not the crucial part. Well, sounds like wrong, but that is the case. So you don't have to worry too much about the teaching statement. A few things to keep in mind. Someone says, well, I do not have a lot of teaching experience. I never gave lectures in front of 100 students. That's fine. In terms of teaching, everything counts. Well, you have never gave a lecture, but you probably has been a teaching assistant while you were doing your PhD work. That counts. And even grading, that counts. Everything counts in terms of teaching. So even your experience when you were in high school or in your middle school, everything in terms of teaching, it counts. A second thing is, you want to start with a personal story. Okay, to show that you are really highly motivated for teaching. Even if this is made up, you want to show you are highly motivated for teaching by telling them a personal story. And the third, a teaching statement, sometimes it's also called teaching philosophy. So you're supposed to talk about your teaching philosophy, but philosophy is very boring. So my trick is always give examples. For maybe you have 3 points for your teaching philosophy, then give at least 3 examples. For each philosophy, give it 1 example. So make it less boring. Okay, that's about the teaching statement. Now, the last one is recommendation letter. Usually, you're asked to give 3 recommendation letters. Of course, you don't write these letters, but you find someone to write letters for you. So you're gonna pick who is going to write letters for you. Some people only have 3 candidates. That's fine. You can just ask those 3. But sometimes you have 5, 10 people who can potentially write for you. Then you have to choose 3. Sometimes this can be very tricky. So I think when you choose who is going to write for you, there are 3 things to consider. First is this person needs to know you well. And second, this person's supposed to have a very good reputation. Or sometimes we call it big guy or big name. And third is he can write a strong letter for you. And number 2 and number 3, sometimes they don't apply to the same person, especially those big guy. They have very good reputation, so they are, they care about their reputation. So sometimes they are very reluctant to write a strong letter for you. In my opinion, in that case, a strong letter is even more important than a good reputation. So if you can't find people who match all the 3, I would recommend you find people who can match 1 and 3. So someone who knows you well and someone who is willing to write a strong letter for you. Now, how do I know he can write a strong letter for me? So the trick is you should ask directly. When you ask this person, can you write a letter for me? You should ask directly, can you write a strong letter for me? So instead of just asking for a letter, you should directly ask for a strong letter for me. Sometimes when you say, well, can you write a letter for me? They actually don't want to write a letter for you, but they don't feel good to just refuse you. So they say, oh yeah, I can write a letter for you. But turns out they write a very weak letter for you. That's not good. But if you ask, can you write a strong letter for me, then they will say, okay, well, I can write a letter for you, but because I don't know you well, or for some other reasons, I cannot write a strong letter for you. So by asking for this, you also gave them excuse to not write a letter for you. And also you can make sure whatever letter you get is strong. This is very, very important. Okay, so that's more or less about the application. And the most important, in my opinion, the most important thing for the entire application process is actually the interview part. So I'm gonna focus on interview part next time and just talk about how you prepare for a Skype interview and the seminar talk. Okay, thanks a lot.